Hey, everybody, it's Joe Trippi, and welcome back to That Trippi Show with my co host, Alex Sashlow. This week, it's another week of Trump chaos, of
I
course.
actually had a hard time trying to figure out what to start with.
Yeah. And anyway, yes, another signal chat. Somebody needs to take Pete Hegseth's phone away from him. And could Elon really be on his way out? There are some signs that, well, Tesla Tesla's
Oof.
sinking a little bit. We'll get to some of that. Plus, we get to more of your questions after last week's show with Annette. We have gotten more comments and questions than we've ever gotten before. So thank you for those. But also, if you missed that episode, more and more people are just across social media saying it's the most important episode that we've ever done here at That Trippy Show. If you missed it, please go listen to last week's episode and maybe pass it on to some of your friends to listen because I think it's that important. Alex, where should we get started?
I think I agree. I was going to plug it too. The feedback that a lot of you listening to this has sent in has really been incredible. So it's great to see. Joe, let's talk about just the pile of screw ups that have happened since last week we got to recording. And like I said at the top, I really don't know where to start. I mean, there is another signal chat. This time, I think it was Hegseth's wife and like his personal lawyer and like one of his brothers was in on a chat where he shared more attack plans, which by the way, I think I also saw he's been bringing his wife to like one-on-one meetings with other like his foreign counterparts, which is also insane. There's that.
Yeah,
They tried to start a fight with Harvard, sent a letter of all these demands, mostly around
mistake. It
DEI
was a
stuff,
mistake.
and now they're saying it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Then I mean, those are the two that have been being talked about in the last like 48 hours, but I mean, it's just been a hell of a week for them.
Yeah, well, no, it's Trump chaos per usual, and incompetence and amateur hour and everything else rolled into one, and unfortunately wrapped in an autocratic coup wrapper that continues to proceed. So, it's on the ones, some of those things are, like the Hexa thing. It's laughable, and but at the same time, I mean, the danger, the reality, the seriousness of that and who he's putting at risk are, our guys on the front, people on the front lines out there is just, insane. And so it's one of these weird things where, yeah, it's the circus, but real people's lives are on the line because of the stupidity, the amateur hour, the enablers that still, that's still in the Senate and the House are not stepping up and doing hearings or anything, making excuses. It's, each day we creep further and further into the abyss with these guys and their antics. But the antics, no matter how much you kind of laugh at it, don't let that mask the seriousness of I'm sorry, I don't even like calling it a clown show anymore because it looks like one, but man, it's got some dire consequences. Don't look at the just the mistakes that you were talking about. I mean, look at the market manipulation with tariffs. A lot of the math they basically they just
They
basically made
actually
it
made
up.
it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, here's a formula, we'll make it look right. They're burying climate change data. They had an IRS commissioner for 2 days during the busiest time of the year, tax season. They're trying to cut Head Start and things like heating assistance for poor people's homes. And then sending disaster aid to red states and ignoring blue states, which gets me to one thing I've been wanting me to say for a while. It's an idea I've had that we need to take the color red away from them, this red state, blue state stuff. I think, they don't own the color red. And by giving them that uniform, that signal that I'm part of that, I think, we should be going to all these demonstrations, hands off, and these demonstrations that we're doing, town halls, those kinds of things, all wearing red hats that say resist and refuse. Start taking the color red. It confuses the hell out of them. I mean, imagine Trump watching the news of these rallies and everybody at the rally protesting him is wearing a red hat. Think of the MAGA supporters who'd be watching that and seeing red hats at a rally against Trump, and what they're doing. And they keep trying to make this red blue. we should take the color red away from them, I think. And, you know, and it starts, I just think it's simple things like that that we have to start thinking about how to fight this. And it may sound simple, but, you know, I bought a red hat, got it made that says resist and refuse, and I wore it to the hands off rally here at NOAA that we had. And it was funny. I mean, first people looked at me like, oh my God, is it a MAGA guy coming to disrupt our rally? But then everybody started to ask me where I got it. And it was, you know, and hey, we should do that. And I just, it hit me that it's something that we should be thinking about doing. I'm sorry I got off topic a little bit there, Alex, but I
No,
wanted
I
to
love
put that
it.
out there.
The one thing you said a minute ago with Trump's enablers in Congress before we get on, and we have a bunch of questions to get to, but talking to some people, and at this time of year, there's people launching campaigns for Congress all over the country. There's even more people starting to think about it, talking to people, having conversations. And one consistent question I know we've both gotten is how do we successfully tie everything that's happening around the neck of like some random asshole Republican who hasn't done anything, hasn't said much, and basically just has their head down in Congress and is just letting all this happen? How do we turn that into something that a Democrat running for Congress can actually use?
Well, there's a lot of, I mean, one, you got to, this isn't just Trump, it's the Republicans. This, you know, it's the Republican tariffs, it's the Republican budget, it's the Republican cuts on these things, on heating, you know, on heating and the things that we've been talking about. But I mean, there's a lot of, you know, research out there that I think you wanted to talk about that helps get into this a bit.
Yeah, let's go there next. So as we were prepping for this show, found a ton of interesting research. A lot of it comes out on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but there's a New York Times poll talking about, and I think it's almost a trap. And I'm curious as to your take about how Americans feel about what's going on specifically with Doge and Elon Musk. So all of these things are from the same poll. By a plus 14% margin, Americans think that government is inefficient. Doesn't surprise me. Plus six, Doge is a good idea. But now, if you look at how the job they're actually doing is viewed, minus 12, Doge is doing a good job. Minus 18, Elon Musk is doing a good job with Doge. And I think it's something like less than 40. But then, given the fact that they're 18 points underwater, this is what's confusing. Only less than 40% of voters think that Doge should stop what they're doing entirely. So, following up on our conversation last week with Anat, there is a trap here, and it feels like we need to be really intentional about how we message it. And it, like, I'm already seeing this where people are starting to defend almost the status quo. Joe, how do we
Yeah,
navigate this?
that gets to your question about about the congressional races. We cannot be sounding like we're defending the status quo. That's how we got into the mess that happened in 2024 with Harris and Biden. I mean, the whole message was, you know, we have to say basically we have to save the system. And everybody was like, there's not anybody out there who thinks it's working. So, and that's why I think, again, when you get that question, if 40% of voters think Doge should stop entire or refusing to say that Doge should stop entirely, it's because, yeah, they like the idea, as you said, it's plus six, excuse me, that Doge is a good idea. They like the idea. They think Musk, Trump, his, you know, destroying everything, taking everything out, that's not good, but they like the idea and they don't want to stop it entirely. And that's where I think there's an opportunity for Democrats to talk about not about how to make this, how to change and make this better. In other words, once they've burned everything down, there's an opportunity to not defend what was in the past, but now how do we rebuild a government that works for you? And it's not going to be them burning it all down. It's going to be us with our proposals, our ideas. But more importantly, I think you gotta. It is about tying a lot of this to Republicans, but wrapping Musk and Trump and Doge and the extremes that they've gone to, you know, around whoever the Republican incumbent is, because they've been in the majority. They didn't stop any of this. You have 70% of Americans say that they're either unsure about how much, like when you get to just this is instructive. There's some research that was done on, whether how people respond to Project 2025 being
Oh, I remember
responsible for
that.
everything. Yeah, right. Musk, et cetera. But so you have 70% of Americans say that they're either unsure how much of Project 2025 has been implemented, or say some or not much of it. None of it. I mean, it's 70% have no clue about whether even today, whether Project 2025 has been implemented,
Yeah,
not
that's
implemented, how
terrifying,
much of
man.
it.
That's
Half,
terrifying.
half of 49% of Americans say the implementation of Project 2025 has been negative for the country, and that's driven primarily by Democrats, who 78% think it's been a negative. A quarter say they don't know whether it's been a positive or a negative, including a third of independents, 35%. So,
Right. That's the whole margin right there.
right. So stop talking about Project 2025. I mean, I mean, we could go the uphill battle of teaching everybody that Project 2025, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. When asked which is more concerning, that Elon Musk is being given too much power and is recklessly cutting programs, or that the Project 2025 agenda is being implemented, Americans find Musk's power more concerning by 19 points. 46% think that's the most concerning thing of the two, and only 27% believe Project 2025 is. So, it's clear. That's what I'm saying again. It's tying the Republican Party. It's the Trump slump. It's the Republican recession. It's the Musk. It's what Annette was saying. It's, bullies for the billionaires against the people, and that's where we've got to go. And I think we've got to understand that they have done so much. Musk in particular has done so much damage to his brand and to the brand of Doge in terms of what the idea was, that we have to tie all of that to every Republican out there. It's clear that he and again, I think as you get into the economy, the Trump tariffs, the Trump slump, the Republican recession, even the Republican tariffs, they haven't done anything to take control. It's Congress has the real authority on tariffs, and they haven't done anything. They've just let him continue to wreck the economy. And then every day it's still a Trump post on Truth Social drives the markets up 1,000 or down 3,000, back up another 1,000, depending on whether he's going to fire the Fed chair, not fire the Fed chair. And not a single Republican has stood up, held press conferences, stop it. Maybe they're calling him privately. I doubt that. They're too afraid of him. But
No
anyway, I
way.
just think, we have to get more in tune with the language that Annette was talking about, and start look. So when you start looking at language, Project 2025 is not our most powerful thing right now. Our most powerful thing is Elon Musk, Doge, the failed economic policies that are clearly hurting. And I actually think, look, I think you're starting to see the decoupling. I mean, the cult of Trump and his followers, they're starting to crack because of the economic pain that he's inflicted. They're starting to look and think maybe not. Look, when you're in a cult, it's the toughest thing is to admit you've made a mistake, because that means you're leaving the leader and your whole identity and all that stuff, which again is about wearing the red hats. It's about messing with, start working to break that identity. They identify with red. They identify with Trump, but they're starting to have real reality slap them in the face on cuts to programs that they're using. They're, the costs are still going up. All those things are creating a real, I think, reverberation that is sort of rippling a little bit enough right now that again, it's not the time to play dead. Now it's the time. And the other thing is to talk with them now. I mean, to
Right.
say, and to not say, you idiots, this is all your fault, you deserve it. It's to say, hey, if you're really, I'd like to think that you're thinking about this a little bit and are willing to talk about how we together can start to build for the future and put all this crazy stuff behind us. It does take some forgiveness on our part. And I know people are now yelling at me on the podcast, but it does. I mean, I think we've got or empathy instead of anger at them. Now is the time. And confused, like I said, the red hats doing things that are signaling, hey, we're all in this and you should be out here protesting with us together and see how many we can peel off because I think they're starting to fade, which I think gets us to your next topic, Alex.
Yeah, but before we get there, the one other thing I'd say, and look, we make ads, we make a lot of ads. I can see in my head a Republican congressman running on cut $2 billion, cut $2 trillion in government waste, stop the flow of illegal immigration, kept America safe. Like they're, you already know what they're going to do. You know
Right.
how they're going to try to spin this. And rather than just sit back, we really have to figure out how to get proactive about this stuff because once they're defining it like that, all of a sudden, like you said earlier, we get pushed into this position where we're almost defending the status quo or just reacting everything Trump does is bad just because it's Trump. And that immediately pushes people their corners and immediately kind of takes away some of the credibility we have to try to build up.
Yeah, I think that's right, but I also think we have to start making a lot of our arguments on mostly about one thing, the economy. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that is, okay, so immigration, it basically, the made for TV frog marching of people swept off the streets and sent to El Salvador to a gulag that will, that they're not with no due process and no way to get back. There's a lot of focus on that. And I think that focus actually, again, the images of gang, tattooed, gang members or alleged gang members that we didn't know, so many of them were not, but let's not get into that. I'm talking about just the imagery of it actually will feed into that. Yes. And we deported, when the Republicans running their ads, closed border, mass deportations, all that stuff, got rid of them. That's what we need to be talking about is that 900,000 Canadians are not that came to the United States last March did not come this March. That two German teenagers who were just hikers landed in Hawaii and were immediately strip searched, full body scanned, and deported because they were hikers who hadn't made hotel plans for the entire 35 days they intended to be here. All those stories, no one in America is talking about. Democrats need to, because that's billions of dollars. Tourists from Canada, Mexico, Central America are down 25%. Tourism from the trips from Europe down 17% in a month. That's billions. That is going to all because, hey, all of this is being broadcast in all through Europe, all through Canada. Everybody knows. Who would want to? They're harassing people at the coming into the country and demanding to see their phones. And if they said something negative about the president, they're sent back to the country they came from. Who's going to use tourism dollars to come here? That's local restaurants that are going to be in trouble. I mean, they're what we need to start taking all these things that they're doing and and then throw the tariffs and the other crazy fiscal policies and the cuts and all, the Doge firings and all that, and make it the economic impact, the spiral that and the pain that he's delivering that will way even bigger month by month now. There's no way out of this, but we need to make it a reckless economic disaster narrative, which also, by the way, I keep saying this to people who are listening, you need to start doing something for yourselves and your family, and that is to stop spending except on what you need. And start saving, because I think this is going to be much more painful. Watching the market up and down every day, that's one thing. But this is actually going to create and is causing real pain on the street. And a lot of MAGA is going to be in the crosshairs of that pain. And instead of like, oh, great, you guys deserved it, no, we need to talk to them and we need to take the color red back.
So before we get to a couple more listener questions, Joe, do you buy the new report that Elon's leaving, quote, because he's tired of attacks from the left, unquote?
Well, I think he's leaving. I think, it'll be interesting to see. Uh, it, we all knew he was going to get thrown under the bus sooner or later because he'd be the fall guy for all the crap that Doge had been, inflicted on Trump's favorables and his favorables and what they were doing. But look, I think obviously Tesla missing its numbers big. I mean, big, like
Huge. Yeah.
61% drop in profits or something like that. And he basically said, yeah, during the quarterly report that he would be, hey, don't worry, I'm leaving soon to come back and focus on Tesla. So I think it's likely that yeah, he won't be there, or be in a less visible, form in the administration, but he's still going to be there. And we've got to continue, the detention span in this fragmented mess of a media that we have is very short. And so we've got to keep him, front and center and the damage he did at Doge and what they have to undo. But yeah, no, think he'll be slowly disappeared. If, but that doesn't mean he won't, you've seen Trump land before. It doesn't mean he won't reappear soon after in some other form, maybe on Mars. That'd be good.
All right, let's get to a couple. We're almost out of time, but let's get to a couple listener questions this week. This one's from Saul in Pennsylvania, and I like this one a lot. Can't most of what Trump has done be overruled or retracted the next time a Democratic president can make executive orders?
Yeah, certainly. The problem with that is I don't think
We got to
Trump
get there.
intends. Yeah, I don't think Trump intends on allowing a Democratic president to take power. Um, but yeah, and that's another part of this. I think one of the things that a lot of his enablers have to start to worry about is that question. Okay, and we have to make them fear that question because okay, he's now using the Justice Department to go after his enemies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and on people who were legally doing their jobs, like Taylor and Krebs, or had performed, had served the American people, and were either using their First Amendment rights or were in their jobs telling the truth. He's going after them. To think that in a democratic, that when he's gone, that the rules haven't been changed and you'll be fine is, I think, something that I mean, that's why I've said this to every time one of these guys says that, oh, they agree with sending the people, like John Kennedy, Senator Louisiana, said he agreed with the president sending the without due process to El Salvador. Hey, get every one of them on the record because there will be a reckoning if if a Democratic president is in place in 2028. You don't, they have to fear that a little bit, that he has changed things so much that you now have to not just fear MAGA, but but part of this is that's why they're with him, because now these guys, they know they don't want to be, don't want to be, indicted and stuff for the things they're doing, which means they're going to fight even harder to make sure a Democrat that there isn't another election, or at least not one. It'll have the patina of being a fair and free election, but it won't be one because of whatever changes they make to the rules and regulations. The key here is, I don't, and I've said this before, 2026, most of the real battleground House races are happening in states like California, New York, Illinois, places with Democratic governors and legislatures that are not going to change the rules on and make it harder for people to vote and those kinds of things that Trump may have an executive order about federal races. It won't matter. They won't be states and counties are the ones that run those elections. They'll be implemented in Alabama, I'm sure, and in Montana and Wyoming and places like that, but they won't be in the places like California, New York, Illinois, and others. And so I think there's a really good chance that we can take the House back in what I would think will be a wave election in 2026 if we start to get our language right and wage strong campaigns. And then we can, and I do think, look, we've got a lot of wave elections are caused by overreach once somebody thinks they've got a mandate and then overruns it. And if there's anybody who's ever overrun what they think their mandate was, it's Donald Trump and MAGA.
So let's end with this one because we are just about out of time. And I'm going to synthesize a couple questions and then get the one from Jasper. So seeing what Ro Khanna, AOC, Bernie, and everybody are doing they're going around holding town halls in Republican districts. Is there an actual message we can unify behind besides "we hear you"? And Jasper's addendum, and thanks for writing. And Jasper it comes out to, should Democrats embrace Medicare for all?
First of all, on the Ro Khanna, AOC, Bernie, I think here's the thing. There was some really interesting survey was done in which they asked whether you were inclined to protest or resist what Donald Trump and his administration or his regime were doing. But they asked administration. They asked, 61% of Americans said they would or would be interested. And then they asked, why haven't you? And you would expect it to be a lot of I didn't have time, whatever. No, it was, I think something like 80% said no one asked me, and they had no idea where or how to do it. I think what's fascinating with AOC Bernie, it's okay, finally someone's asking me to come somewhere and do something, right? And that's happening also on the hands off rallies. I think that's what's missing. We need more Democrats, more people out there saying, come here, rally, be the convener of more town halls, more rallies in all these districts. And I think what I would make the case is that what we all need to do is be more accepting of anybody who wants to rally the pro-democracy movement against this stuff. So that's saying that tent goes from Liz Cheney all the way. I don't care what Dick Cheney did, Liz Cheney all the way to Bernie and AOC. That is a massive coalition of people who haven't agreed on a whole lot, except for one thing: the future of the country is at stake and is about to be overrun by a wannabe dictator who's doing great damage to the United States and the world. And they all agree to rally people stand and stop it and resist it and refuse it. And so that's instead of saying, oh, wait, it's these people on the left that are doing rallies or what. No, we have to broaden it and we have to get more people across the spectrum. And they deserve kudos for being out there. That's not my point. I just think that we have to tell people, we have to ask people to stand up. Now, Obama did that a few weeks ago, I think, in a speech. But I think we need to get everybody out there rallying the American people to the cause. On Medicare for all, I think that right now the more important thing is to save Medicare, period, because it is being attacked. They are cutting it. They're going to cut Social Security and mess with that too. And so I don't know that we want to expand the argument. I'm not
Right.
against
No,
Medicare
I
for all.
hear where
That's
you're
not my
going.
point. I just think we have to rally everybody to stop what they're doing, not try to, at this point. Now, I also do think we have to offer more than falling into the trap of defending the status quo. So so that's clear that we need to put this needs to be put in how do we fix Medicare and save it? How do we fix Social Security and save it, but not have them destroy both the programs that people, and how do we, it's, and perhaps Medicare for all is a way to fix it and save it. That's not my point. But my point is right now, I think we've got to rally the American people that there are things that they can do. They can protest this. They can stop spending and saving more to prepare for and protect their families. In fact, that's one of the things I would be telling having Ro Khanna, AOC, Bernie, Liz Cheney, everybody talking about that the economic pain is going to be so big if we don't stop this now, that you need to be saving and spending less, saving more to better protect yourself and your family as this gets is Trump continues to wreak havoc on the U.S. and world economy. And so I just think there's more. I wouldn't take it down to one thing like Medicare for all. I think right now we should be talking in terms of we need to fix and repair things, not break and destroy things. And that's what we need the American people to rally around.
Joe, I think that's a really good place to end today, and we are out of time too.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks, Alex. Remember, Says Us is live. By the way, we're about to introduce groups where you can create your own group, on a social network for real human beings. So it's in your app stores, Apple and Google. Join us at says.us. We also now are part of the Lincoln Square as we've transitioned from Resolute Square to Lincoln Square on sort of a rebrand. Check out the latest at lincolnsquare.media. We also have a, Trippi's Take on Substack that Alex and I are going to be posting on. So please subscribe to That Trippi Show and leave a review on Apple or wherever you listen. And if you're listening to this episode on YouTube, please like and subscribe to get alerts when we post the next episode. You can always send us a question to thattrippishow@gmail.com or leave us a question in a review on iTunes. Remember, if you did not listen to our episode last week with Annette, you should hurry. Don't wait. Go listen to it now. It's probably one of the more important episodes that we've produced. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.